Welcome back to Hustle to Holdings, where we talk about how real people turn hustle into long term ownership. Today's guest is someone that I've had the chance to watch grow in real time. He's the owner of multiple businesses, including an insurance agency, a financial advisory practice, a lead generation media company, and on top of all of that, a growing real estate portfolio. When he and I first connected, I was still early in my journey with just a few units, and even then, he was building, not handed anything, but hustling to create his own path to wealth. What I respect most about him is that his story isn't about shortcuts, it's about discipline, consistency, and stacking businesses and assets over time. Today, we're going to talk about how he built across multiple industries, how he thinks about money and risk, and how real estate fits into his bigger vision. David, welcome to Hustle to Holdings.
Thank you for having me, and good afternoon.
Awesome. So, where are you calling in from today?
I'm actually sitting at my office. I have a retail space in Brick Township, New Jersey.
So, for listeners who don't know you, how would you describe what you do today?
Oh man, they say if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, and so I have fun every day. Fun comes with stresses, but I love what I do in all aspects of it. When you verbalize, the businesses and how they're stacked, like it seems overwhelming. Just living in the moment and prioritizing time and dedication and discipline, we make it happen. And honestly, the stress levels aren't that high, fortunately.
I
So,
love that. We're
yeah.
going to dive into that actually a little bit later because a lot of people, even with one business, are very, very stressed. So, I would love to tap into that a little bit later, but let's take it from the beginning. Tell me
Okay.
about your story, how you started, how you got involved within real estate.
Oh man. I grew up I'm a first generation American, I should say. My parents came in the 80s and they got their citizenship, and so I was the firstborn here. So, watching my parents on the hustle to make something out of themselves here in America, the land of opportunity. I saw all the struggles and the stresses that they went through, and um watching that kind of showed me the work that goes into what it takes to make it in this country. And so as a literally a young child, like I don't know why there was always something in me to make money. And so I do thank them for that, for allowing me to see the hustle and see the American dream happened for them over the course of 20 years, let's call it, right? From the 80s until the 2000, that's when things really started turning a corner for them, which was awesome for me to see and also live through, right? Because as a child, we started getting a little bit more than the minimum to live.
I relate to that 100%. My family is the same thing. I would be 8 years old, knocking on doors, putting out business cards, selling ayacas on the street. So it is inspiring to see your parents come from another country and then you see the hard work that they're going through. So I relate to that 100%.
It came from within because no one in my family is an entrepreneur. They're very conservative. They're very just like most Hispanics, they're afraid to invest, and
Yeah.
for them they're the opposite of me, which is why most of my family, they don't know where I came from. Um, my grandpa actually, he was not necessarily an entrepreneur in that name, but took a lot of risks when he came to this country with nothing as a tailor, very
Oh,
good
wow.
tailor, prestige tailor, and so he made his little footmark here. He ended up buying what is it, like a 9 unit building in
Oh,
Elizabeth, where I grew up. Where that's when he started bringing his kids over, my dad. And so he did all that from nothing, grew up, did, like got to like the sixth grade education. When he made all that happen, not even speaking English, he still made it. and bought the building. And so like, I guess that now that I'm thinking about it, I guess that is one of the places that most, I would say, where my ambition came from, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so I guess there you go. But like my family, for the most part, they are, they think I'm nuts. Now they're starting to see that why I did it, and the work that went along with it is paying off. So sorry, long-winded. So okay, so as a kid, I always wanted to have my own property, and so my goal at like literally 13 was to buy my first place before I was 20. And I don't even know, at that point, I didn't even know what it was to buy a house. I had no idea. Just like the idea was awesome. Like, I want to live in my own space that I bought. And so I
At
always,
13, that's
at
how
13,
independent you were. You're like,
at
I need to
13,
get out.
at 13, I got my first job, and I was selling Pepsis at a flea market right down the street from my house, where I would ride my bike to in the morning. It was weekends only, from like 5 in the morning to like 6 at night. $5.25 an hour plus commission, which was like 25 cents for every Pepsi bottle that I sold. And I remember getting my checks, and it would be like $98. And I was like overjoyed for $98. I'm like, this is awesome. I have money, like I have real money. And, I just kept working. I got older. I always stayed at that flea market, but within that flea market, I ended up getting like sales jobs and selling supplements. So I got a little retail sales experience, and then I was stocking shelves at what would now be like a Five and Below type store,
Yeah.
like a discount store. I was stocking shelves there in high school, and just saving money, also spending money, but saving money. And then, subprime mortgages came. I went to college in Miami, not far from where you are, Johnson and Wales. They're no longer there, but they are in Rhode Island still. But subprime mortgages, not sure if you know much about subprime mortgages. It's basically what caused the financial crisis of 2008. So they
Okay.
were lending anybody money, no income verification, no, literally nothing, zero down payment. Like it was wild.
Was that
And
your first deal? Zero down payment?
no, it's a funny story on that. Years later, I found my closing statement from that real estate purchase when I was 19, and the broker that sold me the loan officer, I
Yeah.
had put down $13,500 for my down payment, and he literally took like 10,000 of that. Like 3,000 actually went into my,
No.
no idea. I had no idea. So it's,
That's crazy.
at the time I had no idea. And so I'm in South Beach, 19 years old, being a kid. And this guy comes next to me, and he's like, do you rent? And I'm just like, yeah, I rent. I'll never forget this conversation. And we were at a bar. I had no business being at a bar, but as a kid, it's what you do. And so this older guy, he's like, hey, do you rent? I'm like, yeah, I rent. He's like, how much do you pay? I'm like, for what? He's like, your rent. I'm like, well, I pay $9.90, but I have a roommate. And then he's like, okay. He's like, what if I told you I can get you in a house that you own, and your mortgage payment is going to be the same, might be even less? And I'm like, that sounds too good to be true. He's like, I can make it happen. I'm like, well, who are you? Like, who are I'm a loan officer. Here's my card. This is what I do, this and that. He's like, let's get you pre-approved. Let's get you, start working this process. And I'm just like, well, what do you need from me? And so he's, does the application. We hang out for that time period. Then we go home the next day. He calls me, and we do the application. And we like, I'm giving him the information. Like, I honestly just met the guy. He gave me a business card. This is how green I was, but like my gut was like, just give it to him. So I get qualified. So now it's like, go look for houses. And in that time, it was I was looking at houses and condos. And like, if it was Monday and I saw a house, three houses, and now like Tuesday morning, I was like, okay, from those three houses, I'm going to make an offer on house A. On Monday, that house was 150,000. On Tuesday morning, it was 160. And by Thursday, it was 165. And by Friday, it was 180. Like things were
What?
jacking up. The values were just jacking up. And so that's my first condo. That's my story. I got it when I was 19. I closed like October 2005. I moved in. It was great. It was like my dream come true. I was no stranger to bills, so they were actually cheaper than
Right.
what. And so I got roommates, and so I rented out one room. And at one point, I was renting out the living room as a room. So I was just literally making a profit living in my own place. And so I had that place 2 years, like 2.5 years. And like just before the financial crisis, my property value went from 167 to like 280. And then, I'm like, should I sell? Should I sell? But I'm not, at this point, I'm like 21. I'm like, I'm gonna live here forever. I love my aunt. And next thing you know, financial crisis. My condo is worth 16 grand,
Mm.
$16,000, and I still had a mortgage on it, obviously. And everybody in my family's like, "You got to sell. You got to sell." I'm like,
Why would you sell?
how am I going to sell? Have a mortgage on a property that I own? I'm like, you can't do that. Like, silly. Like, things are gonna change. She's got to weather this storm. I just graduated college, Barry University, and I was looking for a job, and I wanted to do logistics, import exporting. And at that time, I was actually working for myself. I had a call center, a virtual call center. I was working from home, and I had clients like AAA and BarnesandNobles.com, Walgreens.com, and I was just taking their overflow calls from their call centers to my house.
Oh,
And
wow.
so you got paid per call back then. They don't do that anymore because they were paying a lot. Like I was making like $40 an hour as 19, 20,
How did you
21.
get into that business?
So that's another story. So in my first apartment, I met this guy at the vending machine. I was on my way to go to college, to class, and this guy in just like a regular t-shirt and basketball shorts, he's like banging on the vending machine. And I'm like, is everything okay? He's like, man, this thing took $5 from me. $5 in 2003 is a lot of money. It would be like 20 bucks today, probably,
Oh,
maybe
wow.
slightly more. So this machine took his $5. He was pissed. And I'm like, well, what are you trying to get? He's like, this thing right here. And I was like, I had some money. So I put it in, we shook it a little bit, and finally all of them fell. So he ended up getting three. He's like, oh, I don't have any more money. I'm like, don't worry about it, dude. It's on me. Have a better day. It was like 8 in the morning and this guy's already fighting with the vending machine. I'm like, have a better day, man. It's good. Don't worry. Be good to your neighbor, right? That's the first time I met him though. So then as I'm leaving, he's like, hey man, if you ever need any help with your computer or anything like that, it's like I'm a little techie and I know how to fix things, with the computers and stuff. So I'm like, oh great, thank you so much. Not but like a week later, I get the worst virus on my computer, my school computer, and also my work computer. Well, actually, at that point, it wasn't my work computer; it was my school computer. So I go knock on his door, and I'm like, Brian, I need your help, man. My computer literally is wiped. I can't lose the information. And they're like, what can I do? He's like, bring it down to me. So I bring in my tower. I had a tower, no laptop. So I bring the tower downstairs. He's like, all right, give me a couple days. Hits me up like 4 days later. All right, I took care of it. I saved all your information. He's like, but by the way, you have a really good computer. And I'm like, thanks. That's what my dad gave me when he kicked me out of the house to go to college. And he was like, well, he did good for you. I'm like, I guess hindsight 2020. Yes, he did. He's like, I would have rather stayed back, but here we are. So he's like, I do outbound calls for AAA. It's really good. I work from home. He's like, you have the computer that could do this. He's like, if you want, I can show you how to do it. And I was like, no, I'm good. I'm good. I was valeting cars. I'm like, I'm good. And then so one day, the valeting cars was no longer lucrative. And I ended up, going back to him and saying, hey, can you show me about this? Like, what do I need to do? So he helped me create an LLC. to do the business, and then he set me up with like the platform. I had to go through some training, go through some stuff verifications, and then I got plugged in. Then I had to go through the client, like they had different clients that you can select from, and I selected AAA because he said it was good. I went through their client, their training, and then I was off to the races. And I did road service for Northern California and Nevada from Miami. And
That's
it was
awesome.
pretty cool. But yeah, so now I'm in the financial crisis. I can't get a job in Florida. So I'm like, I moved back to my parents' house. I go to live with them because I'm trying to get a job in New York City,
Did you
right?
keep the house, the
I
first
did.
house? You kept it,
I
okay,
kept
even if
it,
it
yeah.
went down. Okay.
So I rented it out. So I was like, I'm gonna rent this out because I was familiar with renting because I would rent the rooms. So I was like, how difficult can it be,
So
right?
even if the property value was at 16,000, you still made profit from it by renting it.
In the beginning.
Okay.
So my first tenant, so I moved back with my parents' house, and I'm trying to get people in. People were throwing money at me, like, hey, this person, like I was asking for like 1,200, and like I got an offer for like $1,400 a month. They were gonna pay first, last, and security, and I'm like, that's
Wow.
awesome.
Oh,
Yeah,
but
so
that's
it's like,
always a.
yeah, so I was like, that's awesome. I got that money, okay. They're living, the fourth month comes, they're not paying.
Yep.
What is going on? What's going on? Oh, sorry, this and that, blah, blah, the stories that they give you. I'll pay you, I'll pay you. 2 months later, no money. And it's a good thing about Florida is like, now I'm like, there's no chat GBT back then. So I'm like calling the county clerks, like just like
Yep.
doing like, even like the internet was still very young in 2005. And so I'm like trying to see like how can I evict? Like what do I do to evict? And so I got to the Florida website. They gave me all the things. I went did it all myself because I had no money to pay anybody. Did it all myself.
Right. And lawyers give you a $5,000, well, at this time, escrow just to do it when evictions really cost 400 to
That's what I'm saying.
$500. Yeah.
Yeah. So I learned that. I'm happy that you know that. I don't know if
No,
I'm
yeah,
happy
I
that
had
you
to
know that.
evict
That
my
means
fair share,
yeah,
unfortunately.
you gotta learn. You gotta learn. So, so yeah. So, I evicted the first person. Then I had to go back to make sure what was the apartment condition. It was a mess. They spray painted the windows instead of buying shades. They
What?
spray painted the windows black. Their kids took marker and pen and crayon and wrote all over the walls. But they were evicted and they were gone. I'm like, good. So, my next tenant, two kids, college from Johnson and Wales. I got a little bit smarter with them, but not smart enough. And so they ended up getting me to, didn't have to evict them. No, they just left.
Okay, good.
They didn't pay rent for like 2 months and they left. And then they left me a bunch of suits. And I guess that's what I got in lieu of the 2 months rent. So all this time though, like all this time, like I'm just eating crap because I have to pay for my mortgage. And
Right.
I was at a variable at that point. So I was paying a higher payment at this point because interest rates went up. And so now my mortgage was no longer 990. It was like 1400.
No, so you got a
Yeah,
variable interest
at the
rate at that
variable,
time.
right. I didn't even know what that meant. The guy's like, yeah, you're gonna do this. This is gonna pay me. All right, where do I sign?
For
19
those
years.
investors, by the way, who don't know what a variable interest rate is,
There you go.
it's an interest rate that increases and decreases based on the market, okay? A fixed interest rate is the fixed rate that you get, which is 6%. But when it's variable, that rate changes with the market. So if it's 6% this year and next year, the market rate is at 7, then your mortgage increases to 7. If it goes down to 4, then it increases to 4. Don't recommend it. I don't think David does either. Um,
Well, in an environment that we're in right now where it looks like interest rates are coming down, then maybe you want to take the gamble. It is a gamble. It is not set in stone. They're saying interest rates are coming down, but will they? So it is a gamble. But if you were to take a gamble, I would say based on the news, it would be not a bad one. But again, it's still a gamble. So you got to
you
weigh your
also
pros and cons.
You also have the option, which is what I did last year, of buying down your rate. So what I
Yes.
did is I bought it down. Right now, the interest rates when I bought my duplex last year was at 7%. I bought it down to 5, and then it goes up to 6, all the way up to 7. And at that point, if I want to refinance, I can, but the limit in the ceiling is of what I already agreed to, which is 7%. So that is
Hmm.
another option. Talk to your mortgage lender for your
Yeah.
options. But I did want to educate anyone here that's listening that doesn't
Yeah.
know what a variable rate is. Anyway, continue
Yeah, no, for
with
sure.
your
It's
variable
important.
rate story.
Variable rate story. Yeah. So now my mortgage is more than it was. I can't get a job in the city. Now I have a college degree, a bachelor's in international business with nowhere to work, but I have my call center still. So I
Okay.
start growing that. I had other friends from high school that were looking for jobs. They saw I was working from home, making some money. They asked me how you can do it. I started bringing them under my umbrella. So at one point I had somebody in like a CSR customer service rep out in Hawaii, one in
Ooh.
Pennsylvania. I was in New Jersey that time, so I had another in New Jersey and I had another in Florida. So I was making pretty good money. But then it kind of slowed down. The calls slowed down and it wasn't enough to support my mortgage and still be able to live. I had to pay back school loans and all this
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So I had to get, I'm not afraid of working in and everyone has an ego, but like, I'm also very rational. Like, I'm not just going to sit and not pay my mortgage. So what do? I need money. So I went to deliver pizza. So I was delivering pizza for two pizzerias and working my business and making ends meet. And so that's what I did. I was making it. I was getting by. And so then finally I learned the tricks. It took me three bad tenants to learn. It's how you screen. And so now everybody that's looking for a house is you or a place to live is used to two months bank statements, a credit check and give me a referrals of your past tenants, landlords or whatever.
Landlords.
But anybody knows they could be putting their friends, so that's not very credible. The social is obviously, unless they're giving you a fake social, that it's valid. And for the statement, so I ask for 4 to 5 months
Okay.
statements back because if you're looking at 4 to 5 months, you see the cash flow. And most people that are looking to get in a lease, they know that you're looking for 2 years, 2 months, so they'll basically make sure they have money for 2 months so that they can show you, hey, I have it. I learned. I go back 3, 4 months because nobody expects that. And so when I'm like 3, 4 months and I don't hear from them again, boom, I already
Love
know.
that.
Yeah, and I already know it's not worth getting somebody that's not qualified in, and then I have to struggle to get them out, or at least wait 3 months, in this case, Florida, to evict them.
Yep.
I have property in New York. That's not the case. New York is way different than Florida. But in any case, so it was a struggle. So finally, I got a good tenant, and I wasn't making money on it, but it was paying for itself. The value started going up. Now fast forward till today. With the 50-year inspections, we took out a loan, so assessments and everything is high. But in 2027, that will be done. Building would be basically brand new, and I am sure that it will value from where it is right now at like 290 again. Like all these years later, 290 again. But once the building is up and going, like there's no doubt it'll be easily 550, 600K, and my rent will go from 2,300 to easily like 32, 3,400. Because
On
in
the
the,
first property that you bought,
the
you said.
first one, yeah,
Wow.
will finally pay off. Yeah, it will finally pay off. Yeah. So, but listen, it was like, I was emotionally tied to it, but I'm like less than a mile from Sunny Isles Beach. Like I'm centrally located right off Biscayne, Aventuras down the street. Like the
Yeah.
location is prime. And so
It's
I
gonna
was
value like crazy,
yeah,
actually, especially in Miami.
yeah, and so eventually I'll do a 1031 exchange into another property in Florida, but that will probably be like more like 2030 and stuff like that. But that's how I got into real estate.
So
Oh, that's how I got
after
into real
that
estate.
traumatic story, some
Yeah.
people would just give up, by the way. Like with
Um,
evictions and everything, what made you want to invest in more? Like what went through your head that you were like, let me get another one of these?
I don't know, man. I really don't know. I mean, there's definitely something wrong with me. I'm sure people will say it. But I love, they're not making any more real estate, right? They're not making more. And when I say real estate, I mean land. They're not
Yeah.
making any more land, right? And so eventually it's all going to be built on, and then we're going to be building up, right? So I want to have my grounding, while it's still good. And actually, for a while, with the interest rates being so high, me personally, I didn't find opportunity that interested me, but I'm also not one to sit on the sidelines. And so I learned about syndications and general partnerships and joint partnerships. And in that capacity, I was investing in real estate because I didn't want to sit on the sidelines. I love real estate. And so that's what I did. And so I created almost like a waterfall. So in 2020, I did one syndication. In 22, I did another one. 23, I did two, and in 24 I did another one. And so those are normally like 5 years turnaround
Uh
times.
huh.
And they, it's never linear, and it's always projections that they show you, but their projections are normally 3 to 5x, right?
Hmm.
And so in that instances, as the 5 years start coming up, in 2020, so actually next year that will start, that waterfall will start. So I will get my money back from 2020 this year, and I'll be able to invest in property then. Next year, my other one will come to fruition. So now I'm going to have basically new down payments this year, next year, the following year, and the year after that, if I don't do any more syndications this year and continue that waterfall. And I did that to set myself up because I knew interest rates weren't, it's eventually it's got to come down, right?
Hmm.
And so I was just buying the time. And so that's what I did, so that I didn't stay on the sidelines and watch everybody else make money, in a high interest rate environment, while I'm just like, nah. So no, that's how I got in. That's how I stayed in the loop.
So I have two questions for you now, speaking of this, because I'm actually starting to get into syndications myself, because my next move will be buying larger commercial assets, right? So I'm looking into syndications for a hotel or an apartment building. So tell me about your syndications. Like, how did that start for you? For me, it was just because with larger assets, there's a higher return, right? And at the end of the day, I would like to partner with people, and
Yeah.
that's who I'm looking for. So
Yeah.
tell me how you got into syndications from the same thing, like smaller multifamily. Because I remember you told me you after that condo, you also ended up buying a duplex or a couple of duplexes. Was
I
it?
bought a townhome in Valley Stream,
Okay.
and then I bought my house where I'm living here in New Jersey.
Okay.
And then in 2019, I bought a cabin in the Smoky Mountains, which 5 years later I sold at like a 6x
Oh wow.
to the investment. Yeah. I took that money and I purchased an IUL, which created me the infinite banking concept, which I don't know if I've actually have explained to you the infinite banking concept, but we can talk about that another time anyway. But that's what I did because look, it was the opportunity cost in the Smoky Mountains. I really don't like selling properties, but they were building and it was getting oversaturated. And if I didn't dump 60 grand to update my cabin, it wasn't going to continue to perform like it did. And so, like, for me, I'm like, you know what? With the markets, I have a feeling the markets are going to come down. I could be completely wrong, but I have a feeling, especially in the Smoky Mountains, because they're building so much, like
Yeah.
those prices will eventually come down and I'll buy in again. Smoky Mountains are great investments. Um, now still a good investment, but not what it used to be. And so and I loved going there once a year. So it is one thing that I keep my eye on, but those were the properties. And so now we're actually building a house in South Carolina right outside Charleston, and we'll be moving there, and I'll be Airbnb my house here at the beach. I'm not right on water, but I'm, walking distance where you can take a jet ski or a paddle board.
Nice.
And so this is a very beach town, Memorial Day to Labor Day. It's crazy out here. So there's the opportunity there because I don't want to sell. If you don't have to sell, don't sell. That's my, if it doesn't make sense to sell, don't sell.
Can you touch briefly on the IUL just for the listeners here? to get
Yeah,
educated?
so an IUL is an index universal life. It is a permanent life insurance policy that has living benefits. And also, if you front loaded, not many companies will allow you to front load a big premium. It has to be designed in a certain way. If you're interested, reach out to me. I can help you and I can show you. I work with those companies, obviously. But basically, you put that sum of money in and you can borrow against that money in the life insurance policy. It doesn't affect your credit. Creditors don't see it. And you're borrowing right now, I'm borrowing at 5.5%, right? So let's just say $500,000 you put into this IUL. You can borrow, let's say 400,000 for that. You're borrowing it at 5.5%, where everybody else right now on investments is paying 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, depending on their credit and their relationships with the banks, right? Some people paying way more, 15%, whatever. So not me. I borrow against my policy at 5.5%. Now, in that policy, that 400,000 that I'm borrowing is still tied to the S&P 500. And so I borrowed the money from the life company. My money is still in that life insurance policy building money because it's tied to the S&P 500. Because it's an IUL, there's downside protection, so I can't lose any money, but they cap me at the top. Right now, it's like 12%. So if the market does 20%, I get 12, right? But that also creates arbitrage because if my 400K made 12% and I'm borrowing at 5.5%, there's that arbitrage that I'm making over in profit. Not only that, but I normally buy income producing properties with that money. So now that money is invested in an asset that's paying me income and also growing in equity. So my $1 is making basically $5. Like I turn $1 into five because it's getting appreciation inside the policy. The investment that I purchase is giving me income and gaining equity. And then well, I guess it's the arbitrage, it's the asset, and it is on top of that you get the death benefit. So if anything happens to you in the meantime, you get your beneficiaries get the death benefit and you put them
I'll
in a good
talk to you
too.
about this after as well because I
Yeah.
want to make sure that I have the right IUL policy
Yeah, you
because I have
do.
to transition it. Well, I have to transition it over, but we'll talk about this later.
Yeah, yeah. But that's
But
but that's what it is. So then I created that concept, and I got into syndication that way. I was in a BNI group,
there we go. That was my
business
next question. Awesome.
business networking international. When I first started my insurance agency in 2017, you want to do everything and try everything to grow your
Right.
business because I'm a firm believer that if you don't try it, you can't say it doesn't work. And so I tried everything. BNI was one of them. Had good opportunity with it. Eventually, I pulled back from it because my business grew, and
Mhm.
I didn't have the time to attend these meetings. But I met an individual who was just getting into real estate, like as a main job, and so he brought to me this 9 bungalow uh opportunity in Bradley Beach, Jersey Shore, like a half hour up the street. Super lucrative, Section 8 housing.
Oh, nice.
In order to buy it, we had to relocate those people in low income housing. New Jersey's a blue state, so they favor the tenants, not the
Yep.
landlords. And so, with all that, we got a good deal on it because there was a lot of risk, a lot of risk. And the owner of that was older. He wanted to get rid of it. He bought it years ago for nothing. So, he was making like 100x, holding on that property for like 30 years, right? And so now we're basically getting it at a discount, but we're getting it with tenants and
Mhm.
Section 8, and we have to get them out. So we had to buy some of them out. Not all of them wanted to get bought out. That took so we did it. Like we did it. It was a partnership. There's like 9 LLCs that own this. Everybody has their certain percentages that we get. I have 15% of that. And
Okay.
and so we started the process. One of the investors is a GC, and so he started doing all the renovations and all that stuff. Eventually, we got everybody out. So it took like about 2 years. So then finally, 2 years, we started doing short-term rentals, and so we
Nice.
started doing that. But we only anticipated doing. I'm just using random numbers, like in repairing and updating cosmetically these 9 bungalows, we were forecasting like 300K. It ended up being like 900K because
Wow.
it was 90K per bungalow that we had to put into. So we had to get a home equity line of credit on it. And it was a lot of moving part. And like I said, it was very risky. I knew going into it, it was very risky. But I'm like, YOLO, baby, you know?
So you use the life insurance, you
No,
know,
no. I did that
what do you
last
use
year.
for
This is
the
2020.
okay, okay, this
The
is
life
2020.
insurance, I made other investments with that. We could talk about that later on.
So that one, okay, so that one was the syndication that
That was
you
my
raised
first
money
my
for.
first syndication, but it's not your traditional syndication because we're all joint we're it's like a
All
joint venture.
GPs?
Right, yeah. We got
You were
No,
all general
GPs and limited
partners?
partners,
General
right. But
partners,
it's not
okay.
your traditional it's not like your traditional syndication. It's kind of like it is a syndication, but these are all normal people, right?
I
When I
see what
talk
you
to you
mean.
about the other syndications, like this could be like Carlisle, right? It could be like a huge conglomerate private equity company that this is their model, right? But no,
Right.
this was literally that guy that I met at the BNI. This was his basically his first syndication that he's doing, had no credibility, but I make decisions on my gut, and my gut was like, if we hold on to this property for 10 years, even if we don't do anything and it ends up doing nothing, if we can maintain this property, we bought it for like 2.2 million. It's worth right now about 4.6. And no question, in 10 years from now, it's going to be 8, 9 million because of the location. But now it's killing it. So now, we're making money, we're getting some money back, but we're paying the majority is going back to pay that HELOC.
Right.
We haven't refinanced yet. Once we refinance, we'll get our initial investment back, which is great. Almost like a waterfall, right? Because it is
Yeah.
a syndication. So I'll get that back. That's going to be a lot of money. That'll be a lot of money. And so I'll have room to play with, right? What am I going to do with that? But that's my first indication. And
That's awesome.
again, risky. Down the road, there was a capital call. A capital call is when you need more money, and the property needs more money, and you need to give it. And so there's different ways of giving it, but no matter how you give it, you have to give it, and it has to be in full, and there is a deadline. And so we got a capital call. My end was like 17 grand. And so you got to be prepared to have 17 grand. Boom, here you go. Guess what? It never comes at the right time. But this is what it is. This comes along with syndications. Does it happen often? I mean, I guess it happens often enough. You have to be prepared for it, right?
Right.
But that was my first syndication.
That's awesome. Okay, yeah, definitely messy, but at the end of the day, at least you're getting a good payoff from it. So then what enticed you to continue doing syndications after that?
I mean, I love abuse. I love living on the edge. Um, so again, trying to find opportunity in short-term rentals, like the cabin in Tennessee really opened up my eyes to short-term
Are
rentals.
those your next steps?
So I'm gonna do the short term with the Airbnb at my house here in Jersey when I move to South Carolina. But I like it because I mean, my cabin I paid $325 for, and it started making me. I bought it when it was making 45,000. The pandemic happened. I was making 70 grand on that up until basically 2023, and then 2024 it was basically like 45,000, and I had to put money into it if I want. Like the roof had to be replaced, the HVAC. It was getting time. I had to like remodel it, facelift, and I'm like easily 50, 60 grand.
Right.
I'm like, do I take 50, 60 grand and do this, or do I put that money in a syndication, sell this, buy the IUL, create my own infinite banking concept, and then go from there? And so my biggest thing is the opportunity cost. What is the cost of opportunity? What is it going to cost me to
Right.
hold this property,
Hmm.
when I can do all these other things?
Right.
Is it worth it? And for me, it wasn't. And so I made the decision to sell, and it was the first property I sold. That cabin, I never went to see it. I bought it over the phone, and then I sold it over the phone. Basically, it's pretty wild. I was 2019. I was what, 34? I was 34 and I'm like, damn, I just bought a house without even seeing it over the phone. My realtor FaceTime me, did a walkthrough. That was it. Again,
So,
people are like, you're crazy. What do you mean? You didn't even go see it? I'm like, it's all right.
so
My gut's like,
are
yes, do it.
are you looking to focus on short-term rentals now moving forward when it comes to real estate investing, or what is it that do you have
It's
goals right now? It's what comes along the way that
I'm
you think.
I'm about the opportunity. I'm about the opportunity right now, growing my lead gen media company and my financial advisory or planning practice.
So tell me about that. How are you balancing all of that on top of the real estate and your business? It's true. And how does that
so
tie in together even? Besides the
so
universal, which is smart
right, right,
banking
the
system.
IUL, right.
Yeah.
So basically, I don't really have time to research good opportunities and stuff like that. But now I've been in real estate long enough, so people bring me opportunities. So
Mm,
I'm not spending time researching opportunities. I don't have the time.
okay.
I don't. So my time right now is focused on overseeing the insurance agency. I have a team for that. Growing the financial advisory and planning practice. I have one team member that helps me with that. And my main focus and how I'm going to continue the growth for my agency and my financial practice is through the lead generation. And so that is my main focus. So like literally probably starting next week, it's going to be like 30, 40 hours lead gen. And the rest of the time is going to be, managing the other businesses. Like I said, real estate is very passive. Like now
Mm-hmm.
the properties that I have are long-term rentals,
Mm-hmm.
Florida and Valley Stream. So there's really no, like, I'm so used to that stuff. I randomly get a call. This is broken. This is broken. Can you fix this? This and that. No problem. I make sure I take care of all that because I only exist because they pay me, right?
Yeah.
So they're my top priority. They're happy.
You don't have a
I make
property
sure.
manager?
No, for
Oh,
long-term
wow.
rentals, it doesn't make sense for me. Yeah, like it's so easy. It's so easy for long-term rentals. Like I don't see the point. For New Jersey, I look back over here because my house is literally a half a mile down the street. So with that, I'm going to hire a property management company. It's actually one of my clients and good friend.
Okay.
They have 3 rental properties in the Jersey Shore, but further north, close to Bradley Beach, where I have my 9 bungalows, and they've done really well for themselves. And they charge less than the majorities.
Well,
Um, and um, and they've proven themselves to me with their properties, and I'd rather give them the bit. I'm a firm believer and give the business to the people that the small local business,
yeah.
because I'm a local business. And so, yeah, I signed the contract with them. We're finishing up some renovations to get it Airbnb vibey, right? And so, like beach vibes, and once that's done, we'll have pictures sent up. They'll put it on Airbnb, Verbo, and all that stuff, and we're off to the
Mm-hmm.
races. But yeah, so that's really how I balance it. And then you got to deal with the random calls that take you
Right.
away from what you're doing. And, there's a lot of frustration that comes along with that. But I rely heavily on my team and they know, um, listen, I told them all, like, listen, I am spread thin and I can't be 100%. And that's why I have them. I have you. When I talk to them, that's why I have you guys so that you guys can bring me to 100%. You guys can support me. We support each other, right?
Right.
And it's really like a very big team environment that we've created. It's a great culture that I have, and again, most people think I'm nuts. Basically unlimited time off and stuff like that. They don't take advantage of it. It's just it works. It works for me and for them. And so they know that, I'm looking through things and, they know that sometimes they have to give what I look at a second look. And I'm not talking, when I talk about that, I'm talking about like the monotonous little careless mistakes. I'm not talking about, financial planning and lead generation stuff. I'm talking about like if I missed an email for an insurance, if, stuff like that really doesn't require my time, like stuff like that they can handle that I'm just quickly giving a glimpse on. I'll forward it to them. Hey, this looks okay to me. Just give it a double look. Make sure I didn't overlook anything. Boom, done. So just with that, because those little things take so much time away from you. Like,
Yeah, they do.
you're heavy in the weeds in the task and you're getting momentum, and then you get pulled away for 5 minutes. Next thing you know, 5 minutes is 10 minutes.
Yep.
Now you have to go back, you got to re-engage in what you're doing. That takes another 10 minutes, so you just lost 20, 25 minutes.
Yep.
Time is not our friend, and I'm all about efficiency. And so, with their support, that's how we're making it happen. I couldn't do this alone. If I did do it alone, I would have no life. I would have no time to enjoy any of it.
Right.
Could I do it? Yes, I could. But I wouldn't be I wouldn't be happy. I can't imagine. I would just, I would always have to be by my phone. Like you heard the phone ring a couple of times
Yeah.
while I was on. Like, my team, they're answering the phone, they're on the phone. With our phone system, sometimes even when you pick up the phone, it continues to ring. It's like, but whatever.
Is
But
that
yeah, so
advice you would give to someone who is an entrepreneur like yourself, right, and really wants to build his business, but at the same time also wants to grow their real estate portfolio? Is that some advice you would give them? Build your team?
well, you have to have the money to build the team. It took me 2 years. It took me 2 years to build this team, aka to make the money to afford them. Payroll is my highest expense right now.
Okay.
But again, I'm paying for my time back. That's what I'm
Mm-hmm.
paying for. I'm paying for my time back. And as a business owner, that's what you need to do, because you are the mastermind. You are the creator. Your time is worth sometimes thousands of dollars. Like an hour of your time spent somewhere else could generate you $1,000, $15,000 if you're in the right situation, right? Or if you're actually working on something, growing something,
Mm-hmm.
while your team is handling what you've automated, right? So my advice is this. Um, it's never a good time to be an entrepreneur, you know, and if you're ever waiting for the right time, you're never going to find it. So that's why you just got to do it. Um,
Love it.
if you love real estate and you have a 9 to 5, your 9 to 5 should be what's getting you the down payment to buy that real estate.
Yep.
You know, these days it almost seems like you need to put down 100 grand to buy something. And so if that's not realistic in your 9 to 5, then maybe you come up with 25 grand, you do a syndication, you ride that out for 5 years. After 5 years, it does 3x, 5x. Now you have 75, 125, 150K,
Yep.
whatever. Now take that and buy your investment. Did it take you a little bit longer? Yeah, but guess what? You were in the game,
Right.
you know?
Love it.
So yeah, so that's my advice. Listen, real estate, they're not making more land, they're not making, the earth isn't growing. So, like, unless we're discovering underground land that we can buy and live in, there's that this is it. And so it's, in my opinion, it's one of the greatest things. That being said, I invest in crypto. I have, I manage my own money. I have a lot of other investments that I do because, in my opinion, real estate can't be everything.
Right. You need to
You have
diversify
to
your
be,
portfolio.
yeah. And then just recently, I started buying into new ventures, companies, pickleball. I'm an owner in a pickleball club
Nice.
in Red Hook, Brooklyn, right?
Okay.
I also just got into a distillery, so we're distilling bourbon. It's in Freehold, and we're just building out these are super risky because they're brand new business. It's a joint venture.
Right.
It's like venture capital basically is what I did, brand new business, just with the model, a business plan, no actual anything, just a concept. And I go based on my gut. My gut said it's worth it. Do it. I did it. And so far, the pickleball, we're only a couple of hundred memberships away from being profitable. The
Nice.
distillery is still very much off the ground. Like, we're distilling in Pennsylvania right now, and we're not even out to market. The individuals that founded that, they have big roots in New Jersey with restaurants and bars and even liquor stores and stuff. And so we have a very small footprint, just word of mouth, where we're selling this stuff.
Okay.
But really, it's not making any money at all. It's costing us money. But I mean, when you're growing a business, that's what it is. And
That's what it
so,
takes, yeah.
but once that's going, I believe it's going to do great. Obviously, I wouldn't have invested in it if I didn't think that was the case. But you have to diversify is the point of all this. You got to diversify. Real estate is good. That's how I got started. I built the equity, leveraged the equity, paid back the equity, rinse, repeat, all that stuff. But all along that, I was doing systematic contributions into different type of investments, mutual funds, individual stocks, managed money. And you don't have to do a lot. Over time, it adds up. I started with $25 a week when I was like 23 years old, and then every year I bumped it up, bumped it up, bumped it up, bumped it up. Now I'm at 40 years later. It's a little bit more impactful. Um, but it became something that I was used to contributing to, almost like paying your phone bill, right?
Right.
So that's, and so I did all of these things. And now over time, I'm 40 now, which scares the crap out of me, but I'm seeing the reward of all the commitment that I did. While my friends were driving BMWs, I was driving a 20-year-old hoopty. It's just I didn't see the value in having, like, I'd rather save that money than spend it on the car that's
Right.
depreciating. You know,
Right.
I never saw a car as an investment. Fast forward to 2021, I bought the Model S Tesla, and I got that coming out of a 2017 Toyota Camry that first brand new car, my 2008 Toyota Camry, a deer jumped on top of it, totaled it out. I couldn't find a reasonable used car valued at what it should be, so I ended up leasing a car, $289 a month, Toyota Camry, my first brand new car. I could have had a brand new car a long time ago. First brand new car, and it was a Toyota Camry. Who cares? 2021 kid, my life was better. I'm like, you know what? I need depreciation. So I was like, okay, let me get this Model S. I factored in the monthly payment, what I would save on the taxes with the depreciation,
That's
also,
why I got a Tesla too. The same reason.
yeah, same stuff, so you depreciate that stuff, it helps you become taxes. Now
And
I'm buying
0% interest.
it, and on top of that, they loan you the money basically at nothing.
Yeah.
And so it's like, why not? Like now I'm financing cars to lower my tax liability.
Nice.
So like, and it was done by design, like I was in my 20s making really good money. Nobody knew I was making good money because if you looked at me, it's like, this guy, like, but I was never one to tell people what I was doing. I just did it. I almost felt scared that if I told somebody I was going to do it, it wouldn't happen. It was like, the reverse effect. So I always
Yep.
just kept to myself and I just did what I needed to do. And it wasn't until later on where like literally overnight, I just like switched. Now I got the Tesla. Now I got the Rolexes,
Hey.
they're like, bro, where is this coming from? And it's like, dude, it's the reward of strategizing your investments and putting your head down and having your dollar work harder for you than you do for that dollar,
Yep.
right?
Definitely. I
So,
love that. Last two questions then.
yeah.
Morning routine. Do you have a specific morning routine that you follow to start off the day?
I'm very routine oriented. I
Love
am.
it.
So my routine used to be a little bit more hardcore. Now that I have a team, not as hardcore. What I mean by that is when I had to be at the office for like 7:30, 8 a.m., I was waking up at 4:30 in the morning to go to the gym. That's like my time. 4:30, go to the gym. I'm out by like 6:30, home, showered, breakfast. Nobody in my house is up at that time. I'm chilling. I get to work, 7:45, 8 o'clock, ready to crush the day, here till 5, sometimes later, depending on what I have to do. And that was the routine. Now that I have a team, I wake up 5:30, sometimes 6 o'clock. I get to the gym. I'm in the office by 8:30, 9 o'clock, which is still perfectly good.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm not getting my 8 hours. I'll normally eat lunch at my desk, protein bar or something, and just continue working if I'm tied up. If I'm not that tied up, I'll go home again. I'm like half a mile away. So in the summer, I walk home. Now it's too cold. I drive, I make what I make, and I come back to work. But that's my routine. I'm up, I go to the gym, about 5:36 Monday through Friday. Weight train 4 days out of those 5 days, and then on Saturday I just do some steps and I do cardio and working on my glutes. Uh, and
That's
so
good. That's
yeah,
important.
yeah. And so yeah, I mean that's my routine. I try and be home by like 5:15, 5:30, and I try to commit to that because it's really easy to get lost in your work. And
Yeah.
especially when you like what you do, you're like, oh, looking at the clock, 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes. The next thing you know, it's like 6:30, like crap. Dinner's cold. Like now your wind down time is cut because if you like me, I need sleep. 8 hours of sleep, I need it. So I'm in bed by 8:30, 9 o'clock, you know, and
Yeah.
I do it all over again.
No,
So
I relate to you. I need my 8 hours of sleep. It's not the same
have
with
to,
6.
have to, yeah.
And where can people find out more about you, contact you directly, and yeah.
Oh, so my website is galarzaagency.com, www.galarzaagency.com. There's Galarza, GalarzaAgency. So there's two A's on that. But yeah, that's where all my stuff is. You can see about my financial services and my insurance agency. No website for the lead gen, still very, very much new infancy stage, but I hope to have all that stuff by, mid-June. But in that regard, I really don't need a website. I'll have a landing page. So the landing page, I really don't consider a website. But I'll have a landing page for that. I don't have it yet. But that's how they can contact me. I have a business page on Facebook, David Galarza Insurance Agency, LLC. I'm trying to change it to David Galarza Agency because I want to get rid of insurance to pigeonhole me just to insurance and just have agency because we do the whole holistic approach from asset protection to asset growth and asset management. So that's how they can find me. And I'm so passionate about it. My team is passionate about it. If they call the office, they're more than happy to help. And if they want to patch through to me, they just ask for me. But yeah, I'm pretty
Yes.
easy to get a hold of. You Google me, you'll find me.
I'll put everything on the show notes and definitely recommend him for financial services. I have other investments, and my other financial investments are with him besides the real estate. So, no, I don't just invest in real estate. I also invest in mutual funds and stocks, and I do work with him specifically with
You
that. So, that's why I
you
wanted to put him on the show.
and you listen. So you're a good pupil because you listen. That's the whole thing. Like you don't know what you don't know. And I listen, I value other people's mentality, perspective, experiences, losses, wins, because it just helps me become a better version of myself individually as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, just overall. If you learn from other people, you're way better off. And obviously you'll learn from your own mistakes along the way, but sometimes you don't make mistakes because you learn from others.
It's very true. Thank you so much for your time, David.